Hey everyone, welcome. It's so good to have all of you here today with us for a really exciting class. So first off, thanks for taking some time on your summer afternoon to spend it with the Michaels and Elmer's team. We're gonna have a lot of fun. You may recognize me because last summer I was here doing a couple arts and crafts projects for Elmer's and we had a blast. So I'm excited to be returning to help out the team and have some fun today. So if you're just joining us from wherever you are around the world, today we are going to have fun making jellyfish. Yes, these are really, really cool arts and crafts that we're going to be making, these under the sea creatures today using just a few simple ingredients, I should say. So we're going to need just a few things that you should have on your end. So starting with, you're going to need, of course, some Elmer's glue. Now I'm using white Elmer's glue today, but certainly if you have the clear glue, some purple glue, that should be perfectly fine. Haven't tested this out with glue sticks. Might be a little bit difficult with them, but definitely should try to use some liquid glue, okay? We're gonna be applying the glue with a paintbrush. So I have a tiny little paintbrush here. I've got sheets of cardboard or colored construction paper. Doesn't matter what color you have, pick a random color. It can be blue, it can be white, whatever you wanna do, up to you today, okay? You're gonna need a marker because we're gonna be tracing the shape of our jellyfish. You're gonna need a pair of scissors. Mine are adult size, so if you've got small hands, make sure that you've got a smaller set of scissors with you, and definitely ask a parent or older adult if you need some assistance with the project today, because we're gonna be doing some cutting. I've also got some ribbon here of different colors, and these are going to become the tentacles on our jellyfish. So that's all you're really going to need. You're actually one more important thing. I've got sheets of just tissue paper here in various colors, and you can see based off the example that I have in front of me, they're going to be applied right on the body of the jellyfish. Now, I've got two different examples here. One is, I'm going to refer to this as the opaque view, right? And I'll put it on that camera as well, okay? The other one is more of your translucent, okay? This is more of the translucent jellyfish. Now, if there was a light coming up against here, you would have the light shining through. And what would be great with this, I'll show you how to do both of them. If you put this up on one of your windows at home and let the sunlight shine in, it's gonna look really, really cool. So we'll go through both of them. One's a little bit easier than the other, and we're gonna start with that one today. Before I begin, are there any questions from anyone out there? Just send them over and we can answer them along the way. Great. And also, we're going to be doing a little bit of trivia today and just having fun. So, step one, you should get a piece of construction paper. Again, doesn't matter what color you have, but what we're going to be doing is we're going to be drawing the body of our jellyfish, excuse me. So, and also, if you don't want to do a jellyfish today, that's perfectly fine. You can do whatever shape you want to do. We're just doing jellyfish today with our tentacles, but certainly you can do any other shape, doesn't really matter. Okay, I'm going to lay this example one down right in front of the camera that's facing towards the countertop here. But what you should try to do with your marker, it can be a black marker, a green marker, whatever you have, or even a pencil. What you're going to want to do is just draw out the shape of your jellyfish. So I'm going to start here and go up and over and down and around. a little swoop up, down, come over here, down, and up, okay? And yours is gonna look something like that. Yours may look a little bit different, that's totally okay. But the idea is that we wanna just have this general shape for our jellyfish to start with, because this is really the body of what we're gonna be using today, okay? So if you're just joining us right now, we took out a piece of construction paper, didn't matter what color. We had our marker or a pencil or a pen, and we just drew the basic shape of the jellyfish, okay? Now from there, what you're gonna wanna do is you're gonna wanna grab, everyone, you're gonna wanna grab some of those sheets of tissue paper that you should have at home with you, okay? Or wherever you are. And what we're gonna do with those sheets of tissue paper, the different colors, is we're gonna cut out little squares, about 1 inch by 1 inch. You can make them a little bit larger if you'd like, but the squares, as you see here, will be overlaid on top of our jellyfish, okay? Now I have some already cut out, and you can kind of see all of the different squares that I have in the different colors. And if you don't have all these colors, that's okay. If you have one color, that's fine too. But the jellyfish that I'm gonna make today is gonna have a little bit of pink in it, blue, yellow, and orange. It's gonna be really colorful. It's gonna have a lot of personality. So go ahead and grab your scissors, okay? Grab your scissors and grab your pieces of tissue paper and start cutting out square pieces, okay? Now you can cut a few of them at a time so that you're making a lot, or you can do one color at a time. But the idea is just to cut out squares, okay? Just like that. Try to make sure that everyone can see. And if they're not perfect, that's okay as well. You want to do circles, go for it. Right, do we have any questions coming in from anyone?
So far, lots of people saying hi, excited for the class.
Well, hello to you. Where is everyone from? I'm in New York City. Is anyone else in New York City? Yeah, let me know where you're from. I always like hearing where everyone's from. It's around.
Yeah, we got one New York City, Georgia, Virginia, Chicago, North Carolina.
Wow, wow, that's so cool. I used to live in Georgia. All right, so everyone should be cutting out their squares. And you know, you're gonna need maybe 30 of them, maybe a little less. It depends on how big you made the body of your jellyfish. So you can see I'm just proceeding with the colors. I'm going with this teal color right now. I'm gonna cut some of the orange. Right. And a reminder, everyone, we're recording this class today, so if you miss a step along the way, that's okay. If you want to come back tomorrow and redo this entire project, that's great as well. Maybe you want to tell your best friend about it tonight. They've got to do it. That's even better. Okay, I'm cutting some orange squares up. They're more like rectangles. That's okay. Just adding them to my pile. I'm loving this. This is a cool, like, hot pink.
Jonathan, are you doing the opaque one first?
I'm not doing the opaque one first. That's going to be our second one that we do. Certainly you can work ahead, but if you have an idea of how you want to create it, but we'll definitely talk about that one towards the end of the class. Okay, so at this point, you guys, you can continue cutting out your squares, okay? I'm gonna do a couple more of this really cool blue. Call it like under the sea blue. But yeah, definitely try to strive for at least 25 to 30 various colors. The more color you have, the more interesting it's gonna look. But again, it's really your creation. Like all of these projects with Michael's, it's really up to your own imagination, right? And what you want to do. Okay. So at this point, I have a plethora of different colors here in different squares. I've got way more than 30, but I've got no one else to do this with except for you out there. So what we're gonna wanna do, we're gonna go back to the construction paper that we had where I drew them on the body of the jellyfish. And now this is when we get to take our Elmer's school glue, okay? And I forgot to mention, if you have a plate, that would be great. You're gonna wanna take some of the glue and put it out onto a plate. It's probably a little bit easier to just move around with. If you don't have the plate, that's okay. You can just apply the glue right onto the body of the jellyfish. And then we're going to start applying the tissue. Now, there's two things you can do here. You can choose to apply your squares right now onto this, or you can cut out the body first and then apply, and then what we'll do is we'll trim away at the excess. That's actually what I'm gonna do, but if you wanted to keep this as like one big piece of paper, that's perfectly fine as well. But for me, I'm gonna take my scissors, just gonna cut the body out. You can, if you have the pencil lines, you can cut over them, you can keep them, whatever you wanna do, doesn't really matter. Again, if you want to grab a plate, maybe a paper plate, since that can be thrown away. But of course, this is Elmer's glue and it's washable, so you won't have any problem because I'm using it on my dinner plates here because I don't have any paper plates in my apartment. All right. Okay. So I'm cutting out the body of my jellyfish. Cool. Throw away that excess or recycle it at home. Then we can start applying these different colors. So all I'm going to do, guys, girls, is just take my paintbrush, okay, and apply a little bit to the body. And I'm overlapping a little bit outside. So it's extending beyond the border, okay? And I'm also going to overlap the different colors. So I find that if you pick and choose different colors, rather than putting all the same in one area, it definitely makes it a little bit more unique. You're just gluing everything down, okay? Great. So here's a fun fact about jellyfish that I learned today. Did you know that jellyfish, tell me if you knew this, okay? Did you know that jellyfish do not have a heart or a brain? That was pretty crazy. I learned that today. I'm preparing for this class for all of you.
That is crazy. I did not know that. We have a couple people that did know that. You guys are smart.
Learn something new every day. Yeah, pretty cool stuff. Has anyone ever seen a jellyfish on maybe the beach or gone snorkeling and seen jellyfish underwater? Definitely let me know. And if you can remember where you were, I'd love to hear that. Great. So this is kind of what things should start looking like here, okay?
So far, we've got one person has. A lot of people have never. Oh, another person has.
Cool. Pretty neat.
A lot of people are sending in what color tissue and paper they're using too. We have gold.
Oh yeah, what colors are you guys choosing?
Yeah, guys, send us your colors.
Yeah, let us know. Do you have different colors than me? That'd be interesting. Great. And another interesting fact, so the word fish is in jellyfish, but they're not even fish. Jellyfish are actually gelatinous zooplankton. Bring that up at dinner tonight. Gelatinous zooplankton. Pretty cool.
Yeah, people using red, green, yellow, blue, rainbow glitter. That's fun.
Oh, yeah, there's so many cool things you can do with this. Also, like, if you wanted to even add on your finished product later, some like little googly eyes, if you have those in your arts and crafts bin, maybe you picked up something from Michael's recently, you could put those on here, give your jellyfish, bring it to life a little bit more, right? That would be a cool idea. I'm just laying and overlapping these different pieces of tissue paper. I love hearing about all those different colors everyone has. So I'm about, I'd say, halfway done on this first one, or laying these down. And it doesn't have to be perfect. Any arrangement really is going to work out just fine because it's going to be really unique and it's going to look pretty awesome. Cool.
Oh, someone sent us a jellyfish fun fact that they don't have eyes.
They don't. Ooh, well, we can make an exception for these and bring these ones to life, right? But that's pretty neat. Thanks for sharing that with everyone.
Yeah.
Really cool. Dun, dun, dun. Okay. And of course, you should also be thinking about maybe, giving your jellyfish a name. I don't know. I have to think about what name I'd give my jellyfish. Okay. This is looking pretty cool. Can't see yours, but I'm sure they're looking pretty awesome. And what helps is if you've got some of them popping up a little bit, just run a little bit of this glue right on top. They're gonna turn out great because the glue is gonna dry and it's gonna dry nice and clear. It's actually gonna firm things up a little bit as well. I'm also just using my finger here to press down. Really don't need a lot of the glue. It's really, sticking really well.
Someone sent in another fun fact. Jellyfish don't have bones. That's a good one.
Yeah.
And we've got a name, Blobby Jellostine. I love that. It's a great jellyfish name.
That is an awesome name. Nice job. So is anyone using an Elmer's glue other than the white school glue? Is there another glue that you're using from Elmer's? Anyone trying this out with glue sticks today? Maybe a color glue? Let us know.
Someone's using clear stick.
Okay. That's great. Well, then we know that it works. Cool. I'm just about finished here. I'm just going to finish up along the edges because then the next thing we're going to be doing is just flipping it over, everyone, and coming around and sort of trimming off the excess on the edges. Figure out what colors I want to use over here. I think orange would look great. Another orange over here.
Oh, we got some more good names.
Oh,
Peanut butter and jellyfish. I love that one. Jelly bean.
Jelly.
And we have a few people using glitter glue for theirs.
Glitter glue.
Super fun, yeah.
Yeah. That's cool. So much creativity in the room. That's what we like. Okay, this is my last piece. I think I could just keep going and going and going. Okay. So now I've got, and it's probably gonna be, feel a little wet. Don't worry, it's gonna dry. Okay. What I want to do is just cut. I'm flipping it over now. Okay. I just want to cut around as best as you can to just cut off some of the excess. Okay, I'm just trimming it ever so gently. You're definitely going to need to let this dry a little bit today. And if some of the
names, Jelly and Jen.
Ooh.
Yeah, I love getting your names. They're good ones.
Those are all awesome names. Yeah, as I was saying, you're gonna want to let these dry once we're done. But just go around everyone and start just trimming off the excess as best as you can. Some of you may not have much, depending on how you placed the tissue paper. And also another thing you can do is you can also just glue the excess. If you don't want to go around cutting, you can just glue the excess to the back. Okay. Just another way, just a little bit of a hack. Always trying to find ways to speed up the process. Because some of you might have jellyfish factories over in your homes or wherever you are, and you might want to make multiple of these today. Okay. So you get the idea of this is where I'm at with mine. Okay. A couple other pieces I'm just going to fold down onto the back. How's everyone doing? Is everyone caught up with where I'm at right now? So at this point, you have the shape of the jellyfish. We have applied our colorful tissue paper. So you should have tissue paper all along. There's a couple spots on mine that I didn't hit, but I can always go back after and hit them again. Okay. It's gonna feel a little heavier now, but it should be really colorful. And again, if you didn't do the jellyfish shape, that's perfectly fine as well. Okay. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to start adding on, ooh, I'm knocking over my Elmer products. We're going to start adding on our tentacles. Okay, so you should have some materials at home or wherever you are to make the tentacles here. Okay. Got different streamer colors. I've got red, yellow, blue, and purple. Okay. Some of you may just have one color. You may have even different colors than I do. That's totally fine as well. How do you achieve this, right? Well, we're just going to start by cutting different lengths for our tentacles. So I'd say that mine were about 2 to 3 feet long. And all you need to do is just cut your tentacles. And I'd say you'll probably need about 25 of these, 25 to 30, depending on what you want to do with yours at home, different colors. So go ahead and get the ribbon out and start cutting it to different lengths. And you can, once you have one done, you can use that first one as a guide for all the extras that you're going to create, okay? So there's a blue, oh, excuse me, a purple and a red, okay? And I'll cut some yellow. I'll cut a blue. Again, using this as a guide. And where we're at right now, again in the class, is we've got the body all done, and now we're cutting our tentacles from the various ribbons that we have. Okay. You can choose to keep the ribbon just straight like this. You can use, you may want to have a parent or adult help you with this, but you can add a little bit of curl to the ribbon by using the back of the sharper part of the scissors. Please be careful when you're using scissors, but that's how you're going to get that little dangly effect there. Okay. Again, just running it, oops, along the ribbon like that and giving it a little curl. Okay. I've already got a bunch cut up here. So the next step, let me just clear the workspace here. The next space on our journey to create our really cool jellyfish is to attach the tentacles. Okay. So what you'll want to do at this point is flip over your jellyfish, and we're just going to glue down a portion of the tentacle. I'm just adding a little bit more glue here. This project doesn't require a lot of glue, and this Elmer's glue is going a long way to making sure that everything is nice and secure. Okay. So I'm just putting down maybe a ½ inch and then spacing them out pretty closely to each other. Now I would recommend, like, if you want to get that curl effect in, you should do that before gluing these down. It's possible to do it after, but I think it's a little bit easier to just do it ahead of time. If you want some to be shorter, some to be longer, certainly you can just adjust to whatever you want to do. Okay. Great. Now we're using our white glue today, but you notice I do have some Elmer's glue sticks in front of me, and I'm sure everyone's very familiar with glue sticks. Here's another trivia question unrelated to the jellyfish. Can you guess how many glue sticks are used every year around the globe? Here's a hint. It's in millions. See if you can guess, and I'll let you know if you're right. It's in millions. How many glue sticks are used around the world?
I guess for 10 million, 99 million, 100 million.
Higher.
2 million. 99 again, 99 million.
Okay, I'll get a few more in there and then I'll let you know how many. And if you've joined us before, you may have an advantage because we've definitely shared that statistic before.
Another guess for 10 million.
Okay.
Guess for a lot of millions, a lot of zeros. I don't even know what that number is. 300 million.
Okay, hey, that's pretty close. The number is 235 million. Pretty crazy. That's a lot of glue sticks. That's a lot of projects with Elmer's. So I'm just cutting a little bit more ribbon here. Mine are spaced out all over. My jellyfish, it's really hot in New York City today, so my jellyfish is feeling a little warm. He's like, don't put any more tentacles on me. Okay, I'm just gonna add a couple more here because I want to make sure that we have enough time to talk about making the translucent version. Add a couple more, and you can always come back and keep adding them. And again, we've got a lot of glue on here right now, so don't worry if it's feeling a little wet. It's gonna dry. and it will be perfectly fine. Great. This is my last one. I'm adding this last red here.
People are saying it's super hot where they are too.
Yeah, so muggy. Well, here is my finished design. All different colors. It's ready to go under the water. How did everyone's come out? Are you still working on your first one here? Look at that. Now I got a friend over here. So this one had a little bit more, a little bit less, totally cool. Great. So let's briefly talk about how to do one that is more of just like a see-through, not see-through, but if you had up in a window, the light was shining through, that would look really cool as well, okay? So just to give a recap, that's what I'm talking about here, okay? So I wish I had a light to show you because it's definitely really cool. So to achieve this one, what you're gonna wanna do, everyone, is again, start with a piece of construction paper, similar to what I have here. Doesn't, well, you know, I chose red in this case. I've got a purple and a blue ready as well. What's cool with this one though is depending on the color that you're gonna choose, everyone, that you're gonna see that here on the border, okay? So we're gonna choose, let's just choose, for the sake of time, let's just choose blue. I had a blue one already done. So we're gonna draw the shape of your jellyfish again, okay? And then what you're going to do on the inside is just draw a path, trace it maybe about a half inch away, okay? And this is what's going to become our sort of our template that we're working from, okay? So everyone should see what I'm doing here. I'm just going along the same outline of the jellyfish. Great, okay? So you should have a baby jellyfish inside of a larger jellyfish, right? Okay? This is where you need to have those scissor skills in action, because what we're gonna wanna end up with is something that looks just like this, okay? So what you'll need to do is carefully cut out the inside of your jellyfish. And don't worry again about being really perfect with this. Just having fun, spending the afternoon together, a portion of it. It's getting late for some of us. Got dinner in a couple hours. And I don't know what I'm having for dinner. If you know what you're having for dinner, I'd love to hear it. Maybe it will spark, maybe you'll intrigue me to cook something different tonight. So I'm just cutting out the inside. It's good to have a trash can nearby.
Oh, someone's making fish tacos.
Ooh.
I love fish tacos. It's delicious.
I like fish tacos as well. Sticking with our aquatic theme, fish tacos. I don't think there's anything like jellyfish tacos. Not sure I want to eat those. Okay. So just go out or go along and cut out the entire inside, okay, everyone? And once you're done, you're gonna end up with sort of like this stencil, okay? So in this case, I'm gonna have a blue one. The next thing you wanna do in order to get the translucent part, okay, is to grab a sheet of your tissue paper. Now, I recommend using either white or a really pale color, not something too dark because you want the light to shine through it, right? So in this case, I'm choosing this soft yellow, okay? Now, I just took a larger sheet and folded it in half. You can use a single pane. I just folded it in half, and what I recommend doing is just gluing two pieces together, okay? So I've got one long piece, it's in a vertical shape right here, and I've got it glued together because that's gonna just make it a little bit more reinforced for what we're end up doing. So I'm gonna add a little bit more glue here. Find my brush. And again, what I was doing, just glue these pieces together. And you can see that I already started putting a couple of the little squares on here already. Any questions from anyone on what's going on?
We got a lot of good dinner ideas.
Oh, yeah.
A bunch of people are making burgers, a bunch more people are making tacos, we have rice and beans and chicken.
Ah, that sounds so good, everyone. Well, we're certainly working up an appetite here, okay? So I've glued the two pieces, and I'm not going to use this whole sheet. Just to kind of give you an idea of what we're doing, we're going to take our strips of paper, we're going to glue them onto here, we're going to put our template over it, then we're going to cut it out, okay? So in the end, all of these different pieces of paper are going to be in here, okay? So that's what we're doing now. I'm just gluing directly on, I'm gluing the tissue paper onto tissue paper, okay? And I'm gonna move a little bit faster right now, just because we've got about 20 minutes left. We wanna make sure we're able to get as far along as possible here. I need to go to the gym, work on my muscles here to squeeze that out. There we go. Okay. Let's see. We're just going through with the same colors, adding it on. Don't need to be too excessive with the glue. A little bit's going to go a long way, and it's going to prevent it from, getting too wet. Although this will, is going to dry just fine. Just want to put it aside. So what I would say, once we're done today, either just leave it where you are on a table, or put it near a window and give it a couple hours to dry. And before you go to sleep tonight, it's gonna be great. Going all different directions here. Okay, final question of the day. This is an Elmer's related question, and it's one that I hadn't even seen until today. So true or false, Elmer's glue was originally sold in glass bottles. True or false? What does everyone think? Do you think Elmer's used to be sold in glass bottles? It's in plastic now.
You gotta guess for true. Another true.
Okay.
Everyone's guessing true.
Guess what? You're right. I hope I didn't give that one away too much, but yeah, that's pretty cool. So it's kind of checking in here. You can always just put your template over, and you kind of get an idea that I'm pretty much know where I need to kind of fill out my spaces right now a little bit more. Bottom corner over here. My finger is a little sticky. I think I needed some over here.
We got a couple people that I think are a little bit behind and asked if we can go a little slower.
Sure. So feel free to catch up, definitely can catch up. All I'm doing is just gluing down my colorful tissue paper onto the light tissue paper, then periodically checking in to see where within where we cut out, do I need to maybe just add a couple more different colors?
There's also going to be a recording of this class, everybody, available on michaels.com/classes, probably tomorrow within 24 to 48 hours after the class. So you can always come back to it.
Yeah, and I don't want to go too fast, but you know what I wanted to do is I wanted to make sure we had like 2 different looks to show everyone today, because we were originally just going to go through one. So this is kind of like the bonus. But certainly, yeah, it's so great that these classes are being recorded, because now you can go back next week and check it out. Okay. Great. This is going to be really fun. For those of you that mentioned you're working on this with your glitter glue, that's a lot of fun. So I'm just gonna pause. We'll stop for like a minute here. I'll let everyone catch up. Forgot to mention I have some of my favorite products in front of me. Who's played with goo before? Elmer's goo. This is the fruity, slushy kind. My niece, Aubrey, and her brother Owen, my nephew Owen, love playing with their goo. They're going to be some happy campers when they get some of this. Yeah, goo is a good time. Okay. All right, so I'm going to now take, actually, I'm going to run right here. Still seeing a couple empty spots. Let's see, am I good now? One more over here. So what we're going to do now is take the template and glue that over. Okay. Take some more glue out. You can do a couple different things here, but what I'm going to do is just take the template and just run some glue along the edges of it, and then adhere it down. I should take that off to the tissue paper. Okay, so just running along. Want to have just enough on there, everyone, just to give it a nice little suction or stickiness action, okay? I've got glue on one side. I'm going to flip it over. And I'm going to press down. Okay. So at this point, this is what you should have in front of you. Make sure it's all stuck down. Okay. I'm gonna grab my scissors. Just gonna cut some of this excess off. Don't need it. Okay, throw that in the trash. Okay. And similar to what we did before, you're gonna need to cut around the edge so that you get your shape of your jellyfish back, okay? Now, depending on how sharp your scissors are, you may need to wait until this dries, because it might be a little difficult going through some of the glue, especially if there's a lot of glue on it. And that's perfectly fine. I'd probably, you know, we have only so much time for this class. I wish we could spend a couple hours, but in the interest of time, we have to kind of speed things up just a little bit for everyone. So I'm doing my best. I'm probably going to come back here a little bit later and trim it up a little bit more. But what you're seeing is like, I'll cut around this edge here. You're getting the general idea that the jellyfish is coming back to life. They're coming to life. And certainly when the glue dries, this is going to be a lot stiffer, which will be really nice because then you'll be able to hang this in a window and it will just definitely firm up a lot more. It's a little wet in that area right now, so I can't touch it. Perfect. Any questions? Any concerns? Everyone having fun? Hopefully we're having fun.
Yeah, no questions. I think everybody's busy.
Hey, no questions. That means I'm hopefully doing something right. Great. Keep trimming away. And again, don't forget that you can also, you know, wrap under if you want. If you don't want to like trim all the way around, certainly you can just fold it under like that, give it a little tuck and glue. The same thing here. Great. Okay. So there it is. Now, again, if we were to shine a light through this right now, we would totally see the light coming through, okay? And similar to what we did the first go around, I'm gonna cut my tentacles. If you missed the part where I was saying if you wanna keep them like straight, you can, or you could just use scissors very carefully to add a little bit of curl, okay? It might take a couple tries to get them perfect, but it's a good way to, you know, add a little bit more zhuzh. Okay. Anyone choosing the same color for all their tentacles, or are we all doing different colors? No.
Got a couple people using the same. Someone's using rainbow. Love that.
That on it, so. Rainbow, that sounds like a fun choice. Okay, if you joined us a little late, we're just adding on the tentacles. Depending on how many you want on your particular creation, you can go at 10, 15. Maybe your jellyfish doesn't have tentacles. That's cool. Maybe some of the tentacles, I keep ripping it. Maybe some of the tentacles are curlicues like that one. All different. There's no rhyme or rhythm to this. We're just having fun. In a very hot apartment, might I say. I've turned off the air conditioning in my apartment because I didn't want it to be too loud for you guys. But you could hear me.
Got someone using white and pink. Someone else using all different colors.
Yeah, that sounds great. That sounds like so much fun. Now, are we planning to put these up in a window? Are we going to give them to someone special? I'm probably going to put mine up by a big window here. Okay. Okay, guys, we got about 5 minutes left. So what I'm gonna do, and I'm gonna continue doing this after we hang up our call, is start to just attach my tentacles to the backside of my jellyfish.
Got some people that are going to use theirs as decorations. Some people are going to give them to their mom and dad.
Oh,
So nice.
mom and dad are gonna love it. Oh, that's great. Okay, so I've got 3 on here. And with this, just make sure you're attaching to the correct area, the back. Oops. Get the red out here. Funky red, fire engine red. Okay, see how many I can do in the next couple minutes here. I've got ribbon, I've got paper everywhere. Now, I know that I'm by myself here, but I'm sure a lot of you are working in maybe your homes today, or relatives or friends, another adult. Make sure you help clean up everything that you've used today. Don't leave it for someone else to take care of. And I'll be cleaning up my little mess here. Probably made a lot more of a mess than you guys, but make sure to help out. Take it, recycle what you can, trash everything else, and just be good. All right, I'm gonna put 2 more on here. I'm gonna do purple over here. And another, well, let's add blue. Where did I put blue? Oh, I got purple on the floor. I don't want purple. There's blue. Blue will be the last tentacle. That. So I'm gonna go ahead and add more after. I'm also gonna remember to let this dry. But here is our different version. So not only does this one have more of like a border on it, which is pretty cool. If you put this up again in the window, you are going to have the light shine through, which is really awesome, okay? So we're just about at time. So just a quick reminder, everyone. First off, I had a blast with you, and I hope you had a blast joining me. It was really so nice spending an hour with you. Please have an adult share what you did today using the hashtag Make It With Michael's classes, tag at Elmer's, and also to view and sign up for upcoming classes, Kids Club classes. Don't forget to go to michaels.com/Kids Club Online. And we've said it before, if you missed a portion of this class, if you want to revisit again tomorrow or a week from now, this class was recorded, so you can watch it starting tomorrow by going to michaels.com/classes. With that, you guys have an amazing rest of the day. Stay safe and don't forget to clean up. Have a great day. Bye, everyone. Thank you so much.